Two birds, two bats, various crazy people. Title of this video is going to be something along the lines of why I've chosen to live such a boring life. I've now lived in the Philippines for over 5 years, and I've been inspired to do this video from a couple of different directions, if you will, a couple of different sources. One came today. And I had the opportunity to go down. I was supposed to, in my mind, meet two people this morning for coffee. And I was completely wrong. They knew nothing about it. I screwed up. And so I went down at 10 o'clock to meet the two people that weren't going to be there. And what do you know? I bumped into a guy that I already knew, so I just asked if I could join him, and he said sure, and we started shooting the breeze. And then over the course of about 30 minutes, 3 other guys came over that I'd never met before or had met briefly before, and introduced themselves, and we sat down and we started shooting the breeze, and so it turned out to be perfect. And 2 of the guys, I'm going to focus on one specifically, and I won't belabor it, but one guy had been here 2 weeks, and the other guy had been here 1 week. And so they were telling me their stories about, what they were going through and experiencing and how they were liking it, and, some of the challenges that they were facing. And we were all having a good time getting along. And I really liked them because they were just like me. They were just ordinary guys, just older guys, just had enough of having enough and had decided to come over here and either make this their permanent home, or they were just kind of coming over and putting their toe in the water to see if they like it. And so the one gentleman that had only been here a week reminded me so much of myself. And he says, Paul, he says, I have got to learn to slow down. And I nodded my head because I knew exactly where he was going with it. And he said, I am talking way too fast. And I am moving way too fast. And I am expecting way too much. And I just don't know what the deal is. And I said, yeah, I know exactly what's happening with you. I did that too. And I won't repeat the story that I told him about how I was called out on being in a hurry. But what I did convey is that when I came over here 5 years ago, I was successfully dropped about 80% of my excess mental baggage, which is a big relief. Yet I still managed to drag about 20% with me. And so did he. And one of them was to be in a hurry up mode. And he says, man, I'm so used to, getting here and getting that done and then getting out and moving over here and getting this happening and going there, and it's just not working, And he was awesome because he owned it. He goes, it's me. I'm in the Philippines. I came over here to slow down and to take it easy and to be good to myself. And I says, brother, relax. I said, you're not half as bad as I was. I was in hurry up mode. And then I started to ponder on that later on this afternoon. And then another memory came into my mind, and henceforth this video. I realized at some epiphany today on my front porch that the 20% that I had brought over with me while leaving the 80% in America as I got on the plane of my mental baggage was due to 62 years of programming. I'm 67. I'm proud to tell you that I'm really a boring guy because I'm 67. I am technically, if you Google my age, I'm not old. I'm elderly. Okay, so I'm a 62-year-old elderly guy that lives on a small pension. Does that sound successful to you? Because according to the gurus and the motivational speakers that you can find on YouTube on how to get ahead, how to move forward, how to rise to the top, how to become the cream, how to break away from the pack, how to make it to the top, how to get this, how to own that, how to acquire here, how to get this kind of status. Well, I'm none of those things, and I never will be. But that's the world's view of what's success, right? And that's the world's view of happiness. And for 62 years, the television set and the commercials and the social media and the peer pressure and keeping up with the Joneses for 62 years of my 67, that's been forged into my head that in order to find success or be successful, to find happiness, you had to go and look for it. You had to hunt it down. And before you could do that, you had to do all of these things and acquire all of this stuff and have X amount of dollars and live in this kind of house and drive that kind of car. Okay, now you're successful, sort of. Of course, there's always someone that's more successful than you, right? But at least you're more successful than a bunch of other people, according to the world, according to the corporations, according to the commercials. If you take this pill, that'll happen. If you wear this shirt, that'll happen. If you drink this beverage, that'll happen for you. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. So I got myself good and programmed, bought into it, fine. After 5 years of living here, I stopped watching TV because there is none. I can watch YouTube, but that's just reruns of the news. I don't get any commercials. I'm not being sold the next thing to make me look younger or feel stronger or, more importantly, be happy and be content. I don't feel like I've got to buy this or own that or impress him because I'm already surrounded by people just like me that are ordinary Joes. And we're quite content with being boring. And in this boring atmosphere that I exist in, I no longer need to pursue happiness. But I reflect back on the guy that just got here a week ago. He's in the same state that I was in. You see, we at that point were still buying into what we had been programmed to believe. I live on an island, and this island has beautiful beaches. It has phenomenal waterfalls. It's got incredible nature. It's got a beautiful boardwalk. At night it lights up, and there's all kinds of activity and action and people and vendors. There's restaurants, there's a nightclub, there's bars, there's sightseeing tours, there's boats, there's all kinds of stuff. And I was in hurry-up mode to do it all. I needed to go to that waterfall. I needed to hit the bars with the guys and the gals. I needed to take that trip on the ferry over to the other island. I had to go have a meal at this restaurant because it just opened and it was the latest and the greatest thing. And after a few years of being over here, I found out that at the end of the day, after I saw the waterfall, and after I took the boat ride, and after I ate the meal, and after I had a few beers with the guys and the girls, and we chatted it up, and we raced here, and we raced there, we were always in search of a good time, and really it was just a temporary serotonin hit that we were chasing. And that had been programmed into me by the corporations, by the television, by the commercials, that if I didn't get to this level and then get on this kind of plane and go to this sort of resort, I wasn't going to have a good time, because that's the only way you could have a good time. I much prefer, after having gotten all of that out of my system, I just take respite in the fact that that waterfall is still there. That beach resort around the corner that's going for half price this week is still there. That island is still there. I can go there anytime I want to. I've been there, I've done that, and I don't feel any real compulsion to go and do it again. However, when I go about my boring, everyday, day-to-day life, I do find extraordinary things out of the most common, everyday occurrences. I have always been attracted to the everyman. I've always been attracted to the underdog. Remember the movie Rudy? You know, you were all rooting for him. I think you're all on the same page with me as that when it comes to Rudy. But I've never been impressed since I was a little kid with rich guys or millionaires or super successful people. When I do encounter them, and I do, I don't exactly rub elbows with them, but I hold my own with them. I've had my conversations with them over here and back home. And over here, whenever I encounter somebody that is, quote unquote, according to the world, successful, what's the conversation entail? Their success. That for 45 minutes is usually what I get to hear about, is how they've got this and they've got that and they're going here and their girlfriend is half their age and she's super beautiful and we're going to go here and rah. And it's all because they are so successful. But all they succeeded in doing in the last 45 minutes was bore me to tears and look for the exit any way possible. These are the guys I rarely encounter, but I do. And when I do, it's like, okay, dude, you know what? I think I just lie. I got a text from my girlfriend, dude. I got a split. Nice meeting you. It's on me. I'll pick up the check on my way out. See you later. Bye. But today, this morning, that didn't happen. I sat around with 4 ordinary guys, and we just talked about ordinary things, and we laughed at our failures, and we just took, I don't know, great joy in the humor behind it and how much we had in common. And then there are the super common things that happen that on the surface I wouldn't think anything of. And I realized just how blind I was and how much this person that seems to be so ordinary, so common, is able to be so extraordinary. Much more than the guy that owns the 3 cars and the 2 boats and the 5 houses and has the trophy wife. I went day before yesterday to get my hair cut. My regular barber, well, I guess in this case it's kind of fortunately, went to Manila. He had a family issue. So I adopted his protege, a kid named Jay. And I went for my second haircut day before yesterday from Jay. And when I first met Jay, the first haircut that I got from him, it was kind of a get to know each other session, if you will. We were just sort of talking about how do you want to get your hair cut and what do you do? And he knew my name, but I didn't know his name. He'd seen me in there because of the other barber. And he was intimidated a little bit. He knew I had a vlog, and he was a little intimidated by his English. And I assured him, I said, Jay, your English is rock star. It's right on. You are killing it, bro. I understand everything you're saying. Please don't stop talking. I'm enjoying this conversation. And so we generally, the first time around, we just sort of talked about life. But he did share with me, he said, let me ask you something, Paul, are you Christian? And I said, yeah. He said, are you Catholic? I said, no, I'm Protestant. What kind of Protestant? I said, non-denominational. I'm just a born-again Christian. I just believe in the Word of God. He says, me too. And I said, no kidding. And we were done at that time. And I said, you know what? Let's get into that next time I come in to see you. And I paid him, and off I went. And then day before yesterday was session number 2, second haircut from good old Jay. And we did our pleasantries. And it turns out, Jay shared with me, that I asked him, I said, where'd you learn to cut hair? He said, well, I lived up in the mountains. And I started when I was 10 years old. My brothers cut hair. And so they taught me. I said, you didn't go to barber school? He goes, no, there's no school. You just learn. And they start you off with the comb, and then they move you to the little scissors, and then they advance you to the big scissors. And then over time, depending on how fast you pick it up, it's the comb and the scissors. And then eventually it's the razor. And he also gave me a shave. And so they teach all of this. It's homeschooling, basically. And he started at the age of 10 and never looked back. That's his career. At the age of 19, he got filled with the Spirit, fell in love with God, fell in love with Jesus, and put himself through Bible college, 4 years. And now he's an accredited pastor. And I was like, that's a trip, man. And he said, yeah. And so he was telling me that. He had this big grin on his face. And he says, your name is Paul. And I said, yeah. And he says, do you know about Paul in the Bible? And I said, I sure do. But he knew a lot more than I did. And he went on to tell me that Paul first was called Saul, which I knew, but he was a lawyer, which I didn't know. And then he went on to tell me all about Paul and what Paul did and did right and did wrong, and about the apostles, and about how Jesus walked and who rose from he was not preaching to me. He was just explaining his latest little Bible study that he had done in his spare time by himself with his Bible. And he wove the story around, and it was all positivity. And what was so cool about it was, even if I wasn't a Christian or didn't believe, if I was a born-again atheist, I would have been fascinated by the way that he was able to convey his message and how excited he was by this. And towards the end of the conversation, he says, you know what? And I was paying him up. We were done with the haircut. We were done with the shave. We had had this great talk. And we went into a lot more details than I just shared. But for the sake of time, I kind of cut it down a little bit. But he says, you know what? And I said, what's that, Jay? He says, what God really wants us not to do, because we were talking about sin and what lines we can cross, as far as sex and drinking and things like that. The conversation really, he said, this is what God really wants us not to do. I said, you tell me what that is, Jay. He says, he doesn't want us to worry. He doesn't want us to fret. He doesn't want us to feel guilt or shame. He wants us to take all of that and just offer it up to him and allow him to relieve us of all of that. Because today is a new day. And if we sinned yesterday, we have today afresh and anew. And we can perhaps correct those wrongs that we did yesterday, or at least try not to repeat them. He says that we have no clue what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think, Paul, that you and me and everybody else should just go about every day rejoicing in the fact that we have air in our lungs and the use of our body, the use of our minds, and that we can be joyful just by being here. I thought you, my friend, are 1,000 times better than any of these overpriced, overrated, motivational speakers, the guy that's got the latest way to wealth and health and this and that and the other. And I said, Jay, I got to ask you something, brother. How old are you? So I'm 23. I said, Jay, the only thing I want right now. He said, what's that, Mr. Sir Paul? I said, I want your life. All right, kids. I'll see you in the next video.